This is like trip number 8. Y'all better really like this movie.
Here's the story of how I built a literal cabin for our short film for under $600. Step 1. I wrote something that I had access to. Once you start looking for the telltale signs of a independent short film, diner scenes, 2 or 3 characters, you kind of get bored with it. And so when I wanted to make my next film, I was like, how can I make something different? Michigan has incredible woods. You point the camera anywhere in the woods and you're gonna see something beautiful. I knew I had friends who could help me build things because they were a structural engineer or a carpenter. And so I threw everything together that could help me make something unique. Step 2, we got to design this just for our story. Our structural engineer wanted to know about the character. He's like, well, where does he sleep in the building? Where does he perform his ceremonies? Where does he do these? Where does he keep his food? He had all these questions that I didn't think about. It's really finding the right people and letting them do what they're good at. Step 3, we designed the frame of the cabin, the frame of the windows, the door frame to match our lenses. And so we brought our camera and the lenses out to the field before anything was built, and we had a tape measure. And we'd say, like, let's say someone's sitting here, and then we'd move the tape measure back 15 feet and be like, does this look good? And we'd be like, no, we want it a little closer.
You're mimicking what I'm
mimicking you, kind of like a practical.
A little strong. Can you point it up? There, a little bit down. A little bit more, right there.
We brought those back to the engineer and said, here's what we need size-wise. And he's like, okay, cool. And then he passed it off to the carpenter, who was like, well, if you need walls this high and this long, you're gonna need this many pieces of lumber. Step 4, for the actual expenses, the biggest cost was lumber. Now, we could have used found wood, we could have used old construction pieces, but the thing that I didn't wanna take a chance on was safety. If I'm gonna be bringing like a casting crew into this location, I wanna know that they're gonna be safe. There was really no way to do that outside of using fresh lumber. And then the rest of the money was basically U-Hauls just to take the supplies out there and take them back. Step 5. Okay, the last thing, the secret sauce that I can take no credit for is everything you see on the outside. The metal and the great mossy wood was literally just a few feet from the location. That was not planned. I had a much worse idea in my head for what we were gonna do. Literally, there was a collapsed barn that when we were setting up the first framing of the lumber, a friend wandered over and was like, hey, did you see this over here? And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's not our property, like, stay away. And he was like, no, for real, like, you wanna see this? We walked over and it was just the most gorgeous old wood and metal. And I was just like,